A vision statement can initiate progress, but it takes an aligned team to sustain it. The primary job of a leader is building a group capable of maintaining that momentum day after day, turning high-level goals into permanent reality. True team belonging is an engineered loop of two phases. First, consistent words. Matching daily directives to actual resources establishes baseline reliability, showing your promises hold weight. Second, transparent actions. When your decisions are visible and fair, individuals act as a cohesive unit. By mastering this cycle, we can translate abstract concepts of trust into a concrete, actionable routine. Let's build a specific trust and belonging protocol that you can implement in your very next team meeting. Preparation for your next meeting begins before you enter the room. Your mandatory first step is running a pre-meeting diagnostic called the consistency audit. This digital document template shows how the audit is set up. You track the top 3 directives or promises you made to your team last week against your actual follow-through. Reading this diagnostic is straightforward. Any empty blank in the action column identifies a fracture in team trust. If you find a blank space, it requires immediate corrective action. That missed commitment must become the very first agenda item in the upcoming meeting, where you will offer an apology and a concrete status update. Even minor logistical commitments require follow-up. Failing to provide requested classroom supplies or software access damages trust with the same severity as failing on a major policy initiative. Running the consistency audit prevents you from walking into a room with a deficit of credibility. It ensures your words match reality before you demand high performance from others. Now that your baseline credibility is secure, we move to the execution of the meeting itself. Step 2 introduces the transparency framework for announcing new institutional decisions. Announcing a disruptive change without explaining the underlying logic causes immediate friction. If people do not understand the reason behind a shift, they often default to suspicion or resistance. This tree graphic illustrates the context, decision, impact model: why, what, and how. For example, falling test scores justify a schedule change, which clarifies how the team's prep time is affected. There are limits to transparency. You are not required to overshare confidential or sensitive personnel data. Your goal is simply to make the logic behind the decision visible and fair. When a team is provided with the structural why behind a choice, it reduces the friction caused by speculation. This allows the group to shift their focus toward the practical execution of the what. Step 3 requires establishing psychological safety. You achieve this by enforcing a deliberate, safe disagreement role during the meeting. Tactically, you implement this by creating a designated slot on your agenda explicitly called the pushback. During this time, you actively invite the team to critique the new idea you just presented. When that direct critique arrives, your physical and psychological cues prove whether this safety is real. You must practice active listening without interrupting the speaker. The primary psychological trap here is your own instinct. It is entirely natural to feel the urge to become defensive and immediately protect your original idea. You bypass that instinct by using a strictly scripted response. You acknowledge the critique is valuable, and you explicitly thank the team member for flagging the issue. Engineering a safe space for controlled conflict prevents team communication from becoming guarded. When people know they can disagree safely, the team's collective creativity is protected from fear. The final tactical step of the meeting protocol shifts the dynamic of the room entirely. You will execute a deliberate handoff from imposed authority to shared ownership. Identify one specific, highly solvable institutional challenge, bring it to the table, and hand the problem over entirely to the team to resolve. This slider graphic illustrates the handoff from rigid authority to peer-to-peer collaboration. Success is met when the team begins speaking directly to each other to solve the problem, bypassing the central node. The most critical point of failure here is micromanaging the solution after the handoff. True empowerment requires yielding control of the final outcome. Deliberately surrendering control builds a deeper connection. It proves to the team that they are trusted architects of the institution's future, responsible for the results they produce. By completing these steps, you have finished the full trust and belonging protocol. You have successfully moved from leadership theory to an actionable framework. Looking at this printed meeting agenda, you now have tangible outputs ready for your team. A structure that proves your consistency, organizes transparent decisions, invites safe pushback, and initiates shared ownership. Running a meeting with this protocol creates an immediate atmospheric shift in the room. Ideas flow with less friction, and peer-to-peer accountability strengthens organically. This tactical agenda directly serves the core philosophy of institutional growth. When people feel heard, they begin to belong. When they belong, they begin to build. A leader's legacy is found in the autonomy of their team. When trust is established and ownership is shared, the institution's progress becomes a collective responsibility that continues whether the leader is present or not.